figure out how to do Caitlin's honors defense because normally there's like a chalkboard, right?
Oh,
So
yeah.
literally, this is literally the backup. Like, can you correct us?
All right. Should we get started? So, good morning, everybody. I just wanted to thank you all for joining us via Zoom today. Before we get started, I'd just like to ask everybody to keep their microphones on mute as the session is being recorded, and we just want to limit the extra background noise as much as possible. So throughout the session, if you have any questions, you can submit them via the chat feature on Zoom, and later on we'll have time to answer those questions. So to start off, my name is Ali Seminer, and I'm a senior at Hobart and William Smith Colleges from Schenectady, New York. I'm a biology major with a double minor in chemistry and environmental studies. And over the course of my time at HWS, I've been involved in a number of things like HWS Girl Up Club and Rotaract, as well as the student government, and participating in biology and chemistry research. Today with my advisor, Professor Pelkey from the Department of Chemistry. So Professor Pelkey, before we talk about your research, more generally, can you tell us a little bit more about your own background and the research you do with your students on campus?
So, thanks, Allie, for being willing to join me on this adventure.
Yeah.
So, I'm a chemistry professor at HWS. I'm going back in time. I came from a household where my parents didn't go to college, so I was what's now known as first generation, and that wasn't really a term 25-ish years ago. And I ended up going to a small college in the Midwest. I didn't even know what a small college was, but I lucked my way into going into a liberal arts college. And after a couple of years there, I realized I really wanted to be a college professor at a similar school. And I was very fortunate to land at HWS and have been here almost 20 years. My real love of this place is doing research with students like Allie. So Allie, just a little bit of background, she was a student in my organic chemistry class 3 years ago, and she isn't necessarily the typical research student for me because she was a biology major. She is heavily involved in biology research. She just finished her honors thesis yesterday in biology, but she reached out to me and said, "Hey, I'm interested in doing research." And she was a really good student. And I said, "Well, let's talk." I think I took a very conservative approach and said, "Well, let's talk about that." And she essentially convinced me that she really wanted to do it. And she's essentially done it ever since for the last 2 years. So she is one of the sort of the mainstays in my research group, even though her first love, if you will, is biology. Her second love, I guess, is organic. Is that fair to say, Allie? Your second love is organic?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
They're tied.
they're tied. I love it. They're
I would
tied.
say. Yeah.
That's great. So when admissions approached me to put this session together, I said, what I'm really interested in is doing research with students. That is my sort of my primary thing that we do. And even during this crazy time where we're doing these things via Zoom, I still meet with my research group, including Allie, regularly. And we've already sort of transitioned to an online platform for sharing research results. And that is just starting full blast right now. So research is continuing, I guess would be my message. I don't know if I answered, have I even started to answer your question, Allie? My background?
Your background and what you do, the research you actually do with students on campus, I
One
guess.
thing I wanted to do before I forget is if anyone wants to follow up with me, and I would love follow-ups. I've talked with a couple people via Zoom, just sort of out of the blue, people asking me questions. I would love to interact with you. You can send me an email, and I'm going to send out a chat to everyone or my email address to everyone that's in here. So if you go to the Zoom room chat, you can see my email address and my name. Um, Please feel free to reach out to me. I'm in conversations with a couple students. I don't know if any of them are here, but a couple students from that are prospective students, and I would be happy to talk with you one-on-one at a later time.
Yeah, I'll also put my name and my email address where you can contact me as well in the chat. So as Professor Pelkey was saying, I joined his research group, PRG, in the fall of my junior year after I took organic chemistry with him. And I was just really interested in the lab portion and interested in the research that he did. And I wanted to continue that on throughout my time at HWS. So I was just wondering if you can expand on how students can find and apply for and how they are chosen for research on campus, and if you have any tips for students that are interested in applying.
I love this question. So I live this, my all year round, I'm looking to maintain the research group. So I'm thinking about who's going to join. I mean, and I talk with my students about, the students that are currently in the group, like who would be good. And because I'm all about sustaining sort of a pretty healthy, robust research activity. So right now we have 6 students actually actively involved in research and maybe 9 total students affiliated with research. So it's a pretty substantial number. And it might seem like a really large number, but it's not. It's not large for sort of typical organic chemistry research groups. It's pretty, I don't know, modest sized, but I mean it's large for an institution like ours. So what I would say, and I love the recruiting aspect, the cultivating student aspect, but I also love giving advice. So what I would say is you want to make yourself indispensable. That's one. But actually, before that's actually really number 2. Number 1 is you have to show up. That's really the most important thing, is you just have to show up. And what I mean by show up is I have lots of students that say, oh, I'm interested in doing research. And so like what I did with Allie, I said, well, come meet with me. It's pretty low barrier. That's a low barrier to jump over, but like half the students don't do that first step. They I don't know, for some reason they get psyched out or they weren't that serious or whatever. And so, it's like, come meet with me. And the students come in and meet with me, and I talk to them about research. And then sort of my next little, and these are really low hoops, I would say, is I say, shadow one of my students, And what I think my advice to you is whatever, like when you go to pursue a research experience, listen to what the person is saying. Like, these are the things that I'm looking for. These are what I want. What I want is just people that show up and can work with other people. That's it. You have to show up and work with other people. And then the people that sort of stick sort of make themselves indispensable. And really what they've done is they've learned things and they work well with others and they contribute, students that contribute. And my current group is just great. I mean, Allie it's like the golden age of the PRG, the Pelkey Research Group. And we are lighting the world on fire. That's what I would say in terms of productivity and working well together. And a few years ago, I would say, I can only manage 3 or 4 students, but I realized that it can be more than 3 or 4. And it's really about the students sort of helping to take care of it. So the group itself is self-sustaining, and I'm just one part of it. I'm not, the students take care of each other. So, so going back to how to get into a research group, you have to express interest. In expressing interest, you have to be curious about what the research is. It can't be just, I want to do research. It has to be, I'm interested in solving the problem. I'm interested in solving problems. I'm interested in like figuring out how things work, be curious. Then express that interest. Don't just keep it to yourself, express it to other people. And 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 maybe another avenue in other than faculty is actually the students. Get to know the students that are doing research. You get to know the students that are doing research. You could find out a lot more sort of on the ground that way. um, or that's just another avenue for finding out. And then once things become, once something says, here's a possibility, take advantage of it, whatever it is. Come shadow for a day, shadow for that day, and then schedule the next meeting. And it's like, oh, you always work on Tuesday, I'll just come back next Tuesday. The students that do that kind of activity are the ones that end up sticking and being very good. Did I answer
Yeah,
your question?
yeah, you did. And I definitely think that a lot of the professors at HWS are really enthusiastic about their research. So they want students who feel the same. Um, and I really like in your collaborative effort, kind of every time you're in lab, there's always usually somebody else there. So it's really fun getting to work with other students too. Um, so I have some more questions. So as being a research student, I've been able to kind of present my work in a number of different ways. I've done poster sessions at HWS Parents Weekend, and I've been to conferences off campus, such as a conference in Lake Placid. And so I was just wondering if you can explain the opportunities that HWS student researchers have beyond the lab.
So I would say in the sciences, we are really push conference participation. So conference participation really serves a lot of goals. It lets students know that the field is much bigger than just what they're doing at HWS. There's lots of people doing things. And so you get to just get a sample of that. And really what we want out of a conference is someone to give us an idea. We want to share our knowledge, and then somebody might give us something like, have you tried X? And it's amazing how many of those have you tried X's have turned into real things, real things that you can take back and sort of transform your research. At the same time, the students have a chance to sort of participate as scientists, where they go and talk to other people, and they can, ask the same question of other students, like, have you tried this? It's really great opportunities. And what I would say is we host our own poster session every year for summer science, so there's that at the minimum. But most departments participate in local meetings. So the chemistry department has a local ACS Rochester section where we go to different colleges. Like, it's at HWS, like, say, once every 8 years or so, but we go to like RIT, Nazareth, whatever, and everyone gets together in April. It normally would have happened like, this weekend or next weekend, but obviously stuff like that's been canceled for this year. But I've done it almost every year since I got here in 2001. Then we have what are known as like regional meetings, and Lake Placid sounds like a more regional meeting rather than a local meeting, where you have groups from maybe a couple of states get together, and there's like talks and poster sessions and such. And the PRG, we go to the National Organic Symposium. It's held in alternate years, and it basically bounces between East Coast and West Coast. So 6 years, I guess 7 years ago now, we went to Seattle. 5 years ago, we went to Maryland, and last year we went to Indiana. So I guess Indiana, I don't remember if Indiana counted as East Coast or West Coast, but it's so amazing, the National Organic Symposium, because it's just organic chemistry, and there's only one, and it's like 4 days, and there's like these big time lecturers, and it's like one room with like 400 people, and you really feel like a professional, like as a student. It's just eye-opening. So one of my students, Caitlin Sockett, went to this, and her world was just so expanded. Like, that nailed, I think that absolutely convinced her that she needed to go to graduate school to do organic chemistry. And she's now going to go to Boston University. She's a senior who just completed her own honors thesis yesterday, and will be going to Boston University in the fall to study organic chemistry. So I think this is true in like biology, geoscience, physics. Like, everyone has their conferences they go to, and student faculty conference collaborations is highly valued. It's one of those things where, like, when I, came up for tenure, several years ago, that was one of the things I wrote about. Like, I take students to conferences. It's a valued thing at all levels. So it's not just for students, it's also for the faculty benefit as well. Did that answer your question? Did that answer the question, do you think?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I also think that going to conferences allows you, it opens up your networking opportunities. Like after I went to that conference, I got emails from individuals who were there, and it just opens your yourself up to opportunities after school as well, I think. Which kind of leads into my actually the next question, because I'm a graduating student, so definitely plans after graduation have kind of been at the top of my mind. So I was wondering, by your estimation, how does undergraduate research help students when applying to grad school or searching for a job?
So, goodness gracious, I would have a hard time imagining, like, say, let's take the graduate school first. Someone going to graduate school without a serious research experience. I would say that it's one of those things where it's probably like it's probably listed as a highly recommended, but it's really, read required. Um, when you go on, like, say the interview trail, what you're going to talk about is like, tell us about what you did, and it can't be just taking organic chemistry 1 and 2. That's just the tip of the iceberg. Research is you becoming starting on the process of becoming a professional. I think when I was a kid, I think 25 years ago, research was like sort of this big bonus, and I think it was becoming more of an expectation, but maybe wasn't quite there yet. When I went to graduate school, maybe 2/3 of the students had done research and 1/3 hadn't, and it was kind of weird to see students that hadn't done research. But that was 25 years ago. I would say now it's more like, not only did I do research, I published. That I think that's where the level of expectations have sort of ramped up. So that's one thing I would look at, is like, whatever research experience you are thinking about doing, is like, are these people publishing things? Could I actually have something that I could show for it? Can I write an honors thesis that I can share with people? So for graduate school, I would say it's definitely an expectation / requirement. For professional schools, um, they're going to want more a varied level of things, like very, depending on what it is, vet or whatever. They're going to want you to do like clinical work, but research is a huge bonus. Like, it's like you're doing this, but then you also can show that you can sustain something and be committed to something and see something through. So research can really help as sort of an auxiliary activity, maybe not necessarily the primary activity. Like, you're not necessarily doing research that might be exactly, like veterinary research or something. You might be doing chemistry research and then you become a vet. I have a lot of students from PRG that have actually gone into pharmacy school, and they do so well in pharmacy school. So like, I think they have this level of experience when you're talking about drugs and how things interact, and it's like, I actually used to make things that look just like this. And I think their confidence level, and maybe it's their confidence is really high. So I had a student just a couple of years ago who's now at Buffalo, and he got elected like the rep for his class. I think he's outgoing, but I think he just had this confidence that he got from the research experience that sort of made him a better student. That's my hypothesis anyway. So I think research can be a touchstone or a capstone that can help you become, transition to their professional ranks. And what I would say, I'm going to sort of steal, I know it's a sample question here. You can start research as a first year. Some of my best students were first years, and what I love about first year students is, what do first year students do, Allie? I'll have her answer the question.
What do they do?
Yeah, if I have a first year student come in, what happens? You came in as a sophomore. What happened to you?
Please continue on throughout. Your whole 4 years, you like to
You
keep
you are
people in your
you
lab.
stay on. You become a
Yeah.
lifer. So I mean, what's the difference between Allie at like her first semester and now Allie at her third semester? It's a big difference, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a huge, I mean, Allie might not be able to see it, but this is what happened. This is what happens now. Allie is as a third semester student. I make a casual mention, like, I think we should try, reaction B, and I'm thinking, maybe that's something Allie could do next week. And then like the next day I get like this email, oh, so I ran the reaction and it looks great. And it's like, oh, wow, that really happened quick. So that's what happens with a third year student. So for me, I get students as first years. They don't even have to have taken, they won't have taken organic chemistry. They're just curious and present, right? Curious and present, and they're willing to show up. And they come in and stay. That's what happens. Students come to the research group and they never leave, which is, I'm embracing that, but we make it work. I don't remember what the original question was, but
Yeah, you definitely kept me. You answered it. It was about after graduation, how research helps you. So yeah, you definitely answered that. Um, so just a reminder, if you guys have any questions while we're talking, just leave them in the chat. As the last question I have here for Professor Pelkey before we open up to your questions is, how do you make the case for the value of a liberal arts education in today's environment?
oh my gosh. So
Yeah.
I what this is what I would say. We cultivate students. Like, wherever they are, students are like here, and our goal, and we can track them all, right? And we want them to be here at the end. And we care. Like, if we see students that are kind of going like this, it's like we're gonna like pester you, like, hey, you need to like move up. And I think the liberal arts environment sort of allows that to happen because our numbers are such that I can, within a week, I know the names of every student in all my classes. Like, it's like, hey, what are you doing? And when someone looks like they're about to fall through the cracks, I can pull them aside and implore them to um, give them opportunities to get their act together. And sometimes it doesn't always work, but I have lots of success stories where I take people that were kind of floundering and see them turn it around. So I think that's one thing. Just the sheer numbers involved helps you cultivate it. The other thing is the curriculum. So the curriculum is such that we highly encourage students to explore different things. It's not just, well, we're just doing our chemistry, but not only do we want you to become good scientists, we want you to become people that can think for yourself, the people that can write really well. So we have a lot of intentional writing in the curriculum. We have a lot of intentional writing in the chemistry curriculum. We make you write a ton of stuff. And so I think we try to cultivate you as a whole person, sort of by the experiences that we have you go through. And then the fact that we're sort of the small, our size is such that we can sort of look after people. I think our greatest strength is the sort of the interactions with people, just how intimate the environment is. And it's hard to know that until you're in it, I think. I think you can hear people talk about it, but once you're in it, it's like, it's hard to see it. And I have two colleagues they never take a moment off. And this is the Slades, like in their life, like, K Slade and D Slade never take a moment off.
Yeah.
Like during lunch, they're literally just grinding away. Like, what about this student in this class? Like, it's like I walk by, like, by their office, and I come back, and it's like you guys literally never take a moment off, like the whole year. And I think that's like the approach of everybody, right? We're all like thinking thinking about how can we make our classes better, how can we make sure the students are doing okay, are the students okay? And I think um, I've been at different institutions, and I don't see this sort of student focus. It's not the same. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I definitely think that having a liberal arts education and being at a liberal arts school gives you more of an opportunity to know your professor and participate in research, and because you're not competing with, you know, graduate students above you like at larger institutions. So it's definitely I think a really big benefit that HWS has. So those are all the questions that I have for you, Professor Pelkey. So now we're just going to open it up to some of the audience questions that have come in. So
All
if you
right,
guys have any
ready.
questions in the chat,
Type them
do you
in.
see anything?
I don't have any questions, but here's your
Um,
chance.
do you want to, as a first year, I definitely was kind of nervous and in the transition of coming to college. And you touched on this before about how you can do research as a first year, but do you have any, like, I don't think I knew that you could do research as a first year. I just thought, oh, wow, there's all these older, smarter students that are doing it. How could I do it? So do you have any advice for first year students coming in about
So
that, maybe?
what my advice is get to know people. I mean, I think that's, so the first thing you can do, like week one, is go to office hours. Go to office hours. Just show up. Just say, hey, I'm Al. So Allie was great at office hours. Like I mean, that definitely helped when she came later and said, hey, I want to do research, even though she was sort of a non-traditional, not a chemistry or biochemistry major. It's like I had already had a relationship with her because she literally came every week for a year. I mean, maybe that's an exaggeration. I don't know. Is that an exaggeration?
I came to your office a lot.
So that's my recollection anyway. And
Yeah.
and so I knew Allie even more, knew more about her than even other students that are in the relatively small class. So that's what I would say. As a first year, go to your professor's office hours and show it. The other thing is show an interest. I think a lot of people say, well, I have to do really well. You don't have to do, I mean, doing well is great. You should strive to do well, but not everyone in the group is an ace. I mean, we have all ranges of students in the group, and it's really about students that are interested in doing science. That's really the sort of the key. So show an interest. And I have a couple of questions now. Do you have
Yeah.
questions?
Yeah, I see them.
I'll read one. So the background, what do you look for in first year students? The background, I I would say the key background would be to at least have taken one chemistry class. That would be the background for me. It'd be hard for me to take on someone that hadn't even taken chemistry at all. But once you're enrolled in Chem 110, which is our entry level chemistry class, you're ready. I mean, in my opinion, right? You've had some lab experience, and the work that we're doing, you don't learn that in class. You learn that doing research. So I think sometimes people, I think, and probably Allie thought this too, it's like, oh, these students know all these things, and it's, they had to learn, like, Caitlin and Rosalind, these are students that were in the group before Allie, were Allie, like, 6 months before Allie was Allie. So so they seem really smart and knowledgeable, but now that's that's you see, that's like, oh, this is literally what people tell me. It's like, well, Allie is about to do that, so I'll just see what she does. Let's see.
All right. I
Oh,
see there's
oh,
one from Peter about research for non-science majors.
so that is something we are trying, not just trying, but we are cultivating. So we're cultivating our summer research program to we're making open calls to everyone on campus. So all faculty on campus have this opportunity to sort of formally be involved with students in research during the summer. What's happened for years, we have this honors program where students write honors theses with individual faculty members. So these are research projects. I myself am I have my student Caitlin doing an honors defense, but I am the quote unquote faculty examiner for an honors defense in econ and sociology. So that's happening actually next week. So you could do essentially an honors thesis in anything, right? In anything. So that's open-ended and student-driven. Students sign up to do honors. During the summer, we have projects, I know, in environmental studies, econ, political science, even in dance. So, I mean, essentially, there's not necessarily a limit, but so non-science major projects are out there, and the key is the same. You have to cultivate relationships with people. You can't just, I think it's hard to randomly say, hey, I'm interested in doing political science and just picking a name out of a hat. You have to go and make connections with the political science department, show up, be curious, and just, keep going, keep pushing until you make it happen. That's what I would say.
Yeah, definitely. When I was on campus doing research, I kept running into people who were also doing research in a number of different fields. So it definitely doesn't just have to be science, I think.
I have a question from July. What's the outside time commitment with research? So what I would say is we've tried to make research a little more variable. So there's essentially three. The summer, usually you're full time. It's like your job. We pay you, and you do research, part of the program. So that's like a 9 to 5, 8 to 10 weeks job. But during the semester, we essentially have three modes. You can sign up for a full credit independent study, and that might be about 10 hours a week. We try to make it equivalent to approximately your commitment to a class. And then we have a half credit, which would be about half that time, maybe 5 or 6 hours a week. And then we have people that are just informally involved. What tends to happen with me is people start being informally involved, and I just recruit them to sign up. So that informal involvement is short-lived. But inevitably, but what ends up happening though is whatever those hour requirements, you usually might probably go a little bit over that, because research is such that just to do things just takes time. Like organic chemistry is very labor intensive, so there might be like little things that you just, to keep things moving along, it might be a little bit longer than that. But I would say 10, what do you think, 10 hours a week?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think it depends on, like, I guess the student's interest, and it varies week to week. So you might have something that's more time consuming one week and not so much the next week. But you especially are also very flexible in allowing your students to come in during times that work with their schedule, that might work one week but not the other. So I definitely think it varies, but I'd say 10 hours is, yeah, on average.
Yeah, I would say average. So some
Yeah.
weeks it might be 5 or even 0, and other weeks it might be 20.
Yeah. That's just kind of the thing about research, is it's so variable, and into mind, but it's very rewarding. I see another question here from Caroline. How do you react to research that has not worked, or you are unable to come to conclusions? I know that it is very common.
I was going to say, let's see, research not working. So I'll just do the case study of Allie's project last semester. So so in our research, we have things that should work, and they usually do, and then things that we expect to work that are like stretches, like little stretches, like, oh, we've changed this, that should work. And that doesn't always work out. And sometimes you spend lots and lots of time trying to make things work. So, how do you react with that? My reaction is I might be a little impatient. And part of it is because we're only working, 10 hours a week. It's not the same as if you were like working around the clock as a graduate student. You might grind away a little longer. I don't have time for Allie to see a failed reaction like all semester. And it's bad for morale, right? Wouldn't you say that was bad, a little bad for morale last semester? So
Yeah.
we took a different avenue this semester. So we shelved something, like something wasn't working. We put a pin in it and stopped doing it. And I had this other project that was unfinished that I felt like people could get lots of good results in, and we just started doing that. And we actually hit a little roadblock. It was amazing. Like what did you say, week 3, there was a roadblock where it's like, okay, this reaction stinks. It's like, this reaction should be really good. It stinks. So we got together and we brainstormed and said, okay, all right, we need to be more careful, and we need to like overdo it. Like we need to overdo every little condition. And so we did that and we fixed it. Right? We fixed it. I mean, one of the hard things is you have like 6 different people doing reactions. You have to be super careful. Like it's got to be like this order, A, B, C, D. And essentially, I think what's really great about this semester is everyone got a good result. Right? I think our
Yeah.
challenging reaction that literally like week 3 was like it was terrible. Like, and we like fixed everything and everyone got a good result. So, and then of course the semester got kind of truncated there. But I think when we start back up in the fall, we will be in a great place to sort of finish this project. And so, and I'm sad that Allie will have to say goodbye to it, but Allie's still part of it, right? I mean, we're writing our manuscript. Allie Seminar is one of the co-authors. I don't know if they
Yeah,
answered.
yeah, you did. I think it's definitely disappointing when things don't work out, but you definitely gain a lot of practice from doing like reactions that don't work. You learn the process better, so you feel more confident kind of when you move on to the next step and try it again with like a new substrate or something like that. So even though it is disappointing, it's also kind of like a learning point for you to have and gain experience from my opinion. So do we have any more questions?
I think we've answered.
Yeah, I think we have. Do you have any other comments that you or students who already make their is or times during these that had to cope or anything like that?
So can you repeat your question, Allie? You kind of broke up at the beginning a bit.
Do you have any, I guess, final advice for students who are making their final decision process now?
Oh, so
To wrap things up, if there's no other questions.
so the I think my advice is to relax. That's my advice. Like I know it. I wish I could see people too. I wish we were in the same room and I was seeing people, because I would love to sort of take in what people's faces and their expressions. But the I would say the decision you make, it'll work out. That's what I would say. It'll work out. You'll and on the off chance that it doesn't work out, you can change it. You can change it. People, we have a few transfer students that come in, as sophomores. Actually, Caitlin's a transfer student. Caitlin's one of my research students. She came from Hawaii. She was at the University of Hawaii and then decided that it was too isolated and came to HWS. So, that's what I would say. And I'm not sensing any apprehension because all I see is the chat box, but I would say relax. And I know that we're living in sort of crazy times now, and But I think the colleges are all in this together. We're all talking to each other. We're seeing what each other are doing. Where all the colleges essentially closed down at the same time, right? I mean, within a week or two of each other. So I think our focus is on making this work and keeping it going. So I would say it might seem, I could see people being apprehensive now, but it will work out. That's what I would say. And it might sound like silly advice. Yeah. And if I had like a secondary piece of advice, I would say, don't be afraid to reach out to people. I mean, I've attended events with like 300-400 people in the room and said, please contact me. And I'll have like 2 people contact me. And my hope is to hear from more people. And I see Grace Faulkner is now in the room. She's one of my research students. Hey, Grace. You have to unmute so we can hear you.
Hello.
So actually, let's see, do we have another question? So Grace, tell us a little bit about your time in the research group. So Grace is a more recent addition to the research group.
Yeah, so I decided I wanted to do research after going to teaching fellows, which is like TA hours. You have students help you with a lot of different subjects. And all of them were doing research and they're having a really great time doing it. And so I said, I want to have fun and do research. So I emailed Pelkey in September. I said, can I join the research team? Oh yeah, sorry.
No, it's good. I love it. Pelkey, yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, can I do research? And Pelkey said, yeah, like come to my office, we'll talk about it. And I showed up to his office to talk about doing research. And he said, put your goggles on, we're going in. And then I was doing research.
So I'll admit, so I was looking for, so the research group needed a person. So Grace came along at the exact amazingly right time. I think Allie was abroad. Is that right? Or no, you were there, but your timing didn't work with us. I wanted someone to work with Molly, right? I needed someone to work with Molly, and Allie's schedule didn't work. And so Grace comes along and says, hey, I'm interested in doing research. And I'm like, and Molly was in the lab, I'm pretty sure, right? Molly was in the lab. And so let's go in there and see if it works. And they became this great team just immediately. So, and that's like serendipity. You got to allow serendipity to take hold. Like if serendipity hits you, grab it.
Yeah, and we actually had a question that came in about what's research like for students who go abroad.
So Allie and Grace both went abroad. So you guys can answer this.
Yeah, I went abroad the semester after I started with Professor Pelkey. So especially working in his lab, he saves your spot. So he welcomed me back when I came back from abroad. Obviously, I took the semester off doing research because I couldn't be in lab while I was in Europe, but it's definitely, there's opportunities. If you have the opportunity to go abroad, I recommend it, but there's always professors who really enjoy doing research with you, and you the same. They realize that and will kind of welcome you back when you come back from your experience abroad.
Yeah, I had the same experience. I'm supposed to be abroad right now, and I started research in the fall. And so I was supposed to come back over the summer and continue research with Pelkey, and then I'm planning on doing like more research is under an independent study at Hobart. So continuing that throughout the rest of my time at Hobart. But yeah, all the Hobart professors really value the study abroad experience. So they're normally really understanding about you coming back and working with you.
I love the save your spot thing. So like Allie, it's more like I'm highly encouraging you to come back and save your spot, right? Didn't I reach out to you? Did I reach out to you and said, hey, are you continuing?
Yeah, while I was abroad, I think.
I think I did that with Grace too.
Yeah.
hey, Grace, what are you doing this summer? Like, I feel kind of bad recruiting you into the summer research now, but it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. You know, it's just gonna be further down the road. That's all.
Mhm.
Is there? That was a good question. The research abroad, research and study abroad. What I would say is the study abroad for science students. We essentially, like, we've been doing this for years and years and years. Students study abroad and major in biology, chemistry, biochemistry, geo, or whatever, and it's worked out. I mean, sometimes you might take a slightly non-traditional track through the classes, or you might have to like double up classes that otherwise you wouldn't have to double up, but we make it work, right? And study abroad's highly valued. It's one of our like pillars of strength. So study abroad and studying science go hand in hand.
I would recommend, if you are like looking to be a science major and do want to do research and also go abroad, within your first couple weeks of freshman year, talk to Scott McPhail and plan it all out, because depending on what track you want to do, there's a lot of like advanced planning. Like the professors will work with you and get you where you need to go, but it does take planning, especially because I want to be pre-med. So just the timeline of all of it.
Yeah, I'm also pre-health, but I worked out in my schedule to be able to go abroad even multiple times. So I think that it's definitely possible being a science major, being on the pre-health track and doing research and everything. So it's manageable, but you do have to plan, like Grace was saying.
Can we get another question? That's my goal. One more question from someone. And thanks so much for Grace. Well, for Allie for hosting. You did a great job, Allie, and for Grace for popping in after her synchronous on Zoom class.
Mm-hmm.
Where was your Zoom class? Is this the Italian class?
Yeah.
And it's taught by someone in Italy. Is that right?
Yes. So we have to do it pretty early in the morning, but it works out.
Yeah, it's definitely been a learning experience changing to online classes, but you've made it work even for research. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know if we're going to get another question.
All right.
I can't be in the room and implore people enough, like come in, but.
Grace, if you want to put your contact information in the chat,
Oh, sure.
Professor Pelkey and I have put our emails in. So all of you guys can get a contact of us if you have further questions that we didn't answer here. But other than that, I guess I'll wrap it up. I just wanted to thank you all for joining us. As I said, if you have further questions, feel free to contact us, or you can ask the Office of Admissions and they can put you in contact with us as well. But just thank you all so much for joining us, and we wish you luck on your decision-making process that you have. Bye.
Bye.